This here is Hezky Den. And every year at the Amper trade show, they make a little vultures flea market where you can purchase all kinds of interesting components. And I wanted to show you what I purchased, not so much to brag, but mainly because some of these things are things where if you don't know them, then you don't have them, and then you can't use them or buy them if you need them. And so, yes, this is what my haul for about 1,300 crowns in total was made up of. And yes, I got it in these bags like this. So if you have a long trip, you are sometimes well advised to check what and how to bring it home. So let's start off with the mechanicals. Some of these ultra slim things, which are very, very useful for all kinds of jobs where you have to spudge something apart. And you see, they are different from a spatula which you buy at Home Depot because they are just so much thinner. And then this thing here, which is a precision tweezer. I like to use them a lot because you see they have this regulator here. And with the regulator, you can set how far the mouth opens. So you see like this, it's completely shut. And this can be very, very useful when you do pick and place work or similar. And yes, these tweezers are very, very sensitive, so you should always be careful to leave the tip on top. The next thing is this here. And no, this is not a pen, but you see if you pull off the lid, which can be a bit problematic, you find a scalpel. And here are the replacement scalpels. And this is incredibly useful when you have to do some small corrections or repairs on PCBs. And yes, here you have the URL Hezky Den, which is their little shop, where you can usually also buy these replacement charges. And then of course I have a spudger, here a plastic one, and such a brush, a very fine brush. And finally I also bought this to make pointing at things such as the brush so much easier in the YouTube videos. The next thing which you often forget about buying is these banana plugs. You see, you can always either screw off the back or unplug it for soldering in the wire. And these are useful for so many things. For example, for measuring the impedance of 3D printed filament, because then you have two pieces and you just put in two of these pins, and that way you can then get a connection to a multimeter or something similar. And I always like to buy a few colors to make it more easy to keep the parts apart in practice. And yes, of course, Hezky Den has all of them. And then the next thing, this is something I've never seen except at Hezky Den, is you see here in the back we have screws. So if you have a coaxial cable or BNC cable or connection, you can use these to break it out more comfortable. And then there is this adapter here, which is incredibly useful if you have a Prezitronic or a similar old ultra low voltage multimeter, because they don't have banana jacks. And this thing fits in, and then you can connect a banana jack or something similar on the front, and the Prezitronic can then be connected to more modern tasks in the area of metrology. Then also something else which you often forget are these clips. And you might now wonder, why am I showing you these on an electronics channel? And the answer for this is pretty simple, because I have many consulting clients who travel a lot. For example, my African American client with our Genius ashtray. And for these mobile demonstrations, it is very, very crucial that you have a mobile power supply, because if she's in a hotel or something, for example, there is no power available, no lab supply. And these 9-volt blocks can be pretty useful. And another very foolproof thing is this adapter. You see, you can take the two AA cells and then she can connect it to this. And this can work surprisingly well if you combine it with a cheap boost regulator, for example. It can be very cheap and very useful for one-off demonstration objects. And then next we have these connectors. Everybody who follows my YouTube knows I like to use them, and I also always warn about the mechanical unreliability of the forceps inside. But be that as it may, these, you see, usually they are only in black, but now they are also available in red and in yellow and in blue. And this makes easier on evaluation boards to keep apart what goes where. And then the final part of this little haul, let's ignore this one connector here. is all of these little things for thermal management. There is a very interesting, this here. This is an isolator. If you have a transistor and you connect it to a heatsink, then you can use this to isolate the heatsink from the transistor. And yes, all of these tiny little glue-on heatsinks, because they are very useful. If you quickly do a test and on a PCB prototype you don't have enough heat dissipation into the PCB and you don't want to shoot a new prototype, then you just take a fitting size, one of these, glue it on, and you can keep using the prototypes. So I always like to have a variety of these in different sizes. And if you go to Hezky Den, you can buy these at the shop very efficiently and very quickly. And this brings us to the end of this rather short video. I wanted to say thank you all. Thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing, and see you next time. And yes, please leave a comment down there if there is anything which you want to add or which is interesting for you or which you want to see. Thank you so much.